so happy to be here with you this evening and to talk about a really important topic that really affects everything. And with Mother's Day just having passed and Father's Day coming up, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to our childhoods. So while people are joining, I want to first introduce myself. I'm Bari Lyman. I'm the creator of Meet to Marry. It's a transformational dating method that removes unconscious dating and relationship blocks permanently so that you can summon your soulmate, bring in someone into your life that is amazing. I know it's so hard to imagine what I'm talking about, to have such an amazing relationship. And most people tell me, well, you know, nothing is perfect. And uh, what I can tell you is that it's pretty damn near close. And next week, not next week, on Sunday, we are going to have a workshop called Find Your Soulmate. It's time to finally attract the love you deserve. And you're going to discover a new paradigm in love. Hey, Lucy, so good to see you. Boy, it is hot out here. But our topic is really hot. And I want to talk to you again about being able to bring into your life something that is unimaginable. Now, most of us have a concept of love, an idea about love from where? From romantic comedies, from the movies, right? From television, from things that we read. Uh, and those things are just that. They're Hollywood. And what I'm talking about is getting into something brand new and wonderful that is really beyond your imagination. And at our workshop, it's happening Sunday at 12 noon. If you haven't registered yet, don't miss it. This workshop is not about dating tips or fluff or anything light. Because if dating tips worked, or getting into the minds of men, or being more goddess-like worked, then you wouldn't be here today, right? You'd be basking in the joy of a conscious relationship. And that leads us to the topic tonight about how our family dynamics affect our dating life, our relationship life. So I'm going to tell you three stories, three quick stories. One is of a woman who was a mother of three. She's in her 50s. Her kids are one still in the house, two are out of the house, and she's contemplating being an empty nester. And she's very successful in her career, right? She manages like 75 people in corporate America, and everything definitely looks good. And she says things like, I have a great life, everything works, I have a circle of friends, everything's good with my kids. Another one, a real estate executive, 41, single, never married, who just meets men who are like temporary men, meaning they will go out of their way for her temporarily, but then they always disappear. And it's always good in the beginning. And she was not happy. She was not happy about her dating life. And the third example, case study I want to share with you is someone who is a trauma therapist in her 50s with a special needs uh, adult child. And she helps people. She, as a trauma therapist, she helps other people get out of trauma. Now, what do they all have in common? Well, what they all have in common is that they had good lives, friends, good work, um, kids, spirituality, all that. But one thing was definitely missing, And the thing that was missing was a really good man to share their lives with. And you know what? That good man was missing like forever, like forever. They never had it. Being divorced, marriages were traumatic, childhood. It was all traumatic, but on the outside, it all looked really good, really good. So what they did all have in common that no one would know looking from the outside, looking in, is that they all had childhood trauma. They all had childhood trauma, but you'd never know it. Now, a trauma therapist, she's helping people. She's everyday counseling people, looking back, unwinding the past. And as a matter of fact, she unwound her past many times. To be a therapist, you are very involved in your own psyche. Fine. Still no man in her life. Um, the mom with the kids, real estate, the corporate America clients, also serious trauma in her childhood, alcoholic parents, divorce, bitter divorce, and the real estate executive, 41, she's gorgeous, gorgeous trauma. So when we start to look at, you could say externally, like, they're so successful, they're so smart, they're so amazing. Why? How could they, excuse me, how could they possibly still be single? And that's the big question that everyone asks. You may be asking that yourself, right? I'm a good person. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a giving person. How could I still be single? Here's the truth. Here's the truth of why people are single, why there's so many singles. What we learn in childhood, and I call that the childhood love school, is everything. What we learn, the modeling from our parents affects every choice we make when it comes to emotional intimacy. Now think back. Think back to your first relationship, right? How did that turn out? Right? Usually it's like, wow, it was so great at the beginning, or I knew there were red flags. I should never have gotten involved. And then 28 years later, 3 kids later, there you are. So the choices that we make in our relationships, the people we choose, are always a mirror, believe it or not, to our own trauma and beliefs. Now, you may say, oh, Bari, I've already handled that. I've been to therapy for many, many years. I've done all of it. I get it. I've done it. I've unpacked it. Where's my person? And then I ask, well, how many years has it been you've been trying to find your person? Online dating, speed dating, introductions. Please introduce me. I tell everyone, without exception, everyone says, I don't know why. And it's been a long time. And the truth is people tell me you start to miss, you start to yearn for something more, right? Who who feels that? Who misses or longs for physical touch, for someone you can really lean into, someone who has your back, someone who deeply cares, who isn't going to like disappear or change their minds, right? We all do. We all, as human beings, need that. And so, with the case studies, when you start to look at them, you will see that every one of them had childhood trauma that directly affected the choices that they made. And I'm going to explain like what happened there. So, but before I do, what we learn in childhood even if you understand it intellectually, because I know I did, affects our self-worth. Affects our self-worth. It affects how we feel about ourselves. And with Mother's Day just having passed, Mother's Day could be very, very challenging for some of us, right? Who loves their mother but has, you know, challenges with spending lots of time with your mom? I have a client in her 60s, and her mom is just really simple and but was very not a leader, just listened to what daddy said, and she paid the price because she needed like a mother, a strong mother. And even until we broke her out of that with what we do in a clear path to true healthy love and bye bye blind spots, she was still operating from childhood. So, what we learn in childhood love school affects how we view men. When you think about your childhood, and we're going to go deeper in this in the workshop. I mean, here we have, 20 minutes, but when you think about what your relationship was like with your father or what your parents' dynamic was, and you start to dig into that, you start to see like, what do I really know about men, right? Because sometimes our fathers are non existent, sometimes they're critical, right? Sometimes they're not emotionally available the way we want. Sometimes they favor the boys or whatever that dynamic was in your parents' marriage always affects our own view of the opposite sex of men. And the truth is, we don't know men. We don't know men. If we've not been loved well, then we know what we want, sort of, right? I want a good man. I want someone that'll have my back. But there's a major gap between what you're getting in your dating world, in your dating life, and what you actually need, right? Who notices that? I know most of you are going to watch this recording. It's true in every instance. And once we start to realize that goes beyond a checklist, right? Most people say to me, I know what I want. I've thought about it and I'm out there, but it's been 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Heartbreak, disappointment. Doesn't that tell you that there's more that therapy or thinking you've unwound it or that it's all handled, and then you say there's no one out there worth dating in my 30s, in my 50s, in my 40s? Everyone says that. It's got to be my age, it's got to be my time. And then we just tend to focus on our own self-protection. So now back to the stories. So the woman who is a successful real estate executive, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's creative, who only got dates and relationships that were like temporary. Like some would drive 3 hours to help her to like move or unpack, and then he's gone. Why did that happen? She didn't know. She thought it's because she was just not lucky or she was cursed. But that's not true at all. That's not true at all. In fact, in her life, what happened is when she was a little girl, she got dropped off in boarding school when she was very young. So did her sisters, and they're not married either. So it just seemed like, we're just not lucky. But in fact, she had trauma of abandonment trauma. And it's one thing to know you have abandonment trauma, because when you've been abandoned and you have a fear of being abandoned, you think you're over it because you're an adult. You think you're all grown up. Right. Right, Luz. Yeah. So, but knowing these things, in my experience, never changes it, never really solves the problem. So, what do we need to do about that? Well, first, we need to realize that there's a gap in my perception and my understanding of love, of good love, of healthy love, of men. I work with men too. And those men have the same problem as the women. They're like, I can't meet a woman who treats me well or who is not dominating me. Right. So the men are in the same predicament. Right. So we have to realize that it takes a real transformation of going from where you are to where you want to be in your understanding of receiving. Most of us just don't know how to receive. If you're here, mostly you're a giver, right? Who notices you're a giver? You give to your kids, you give to your communities, you give to your parents, you gave in your marriages, you give, you give, you give. That's also a learned behavior, and that could be a blessing and a curse. But when it comes to finding love, it's mostly a curse because if we're always giving, that's something we learned in childhood love school. Give, give, give to try to be worthy and lovable because we didn't get our needs met. Okay. Now let's go back to the story of the therapist. She had childhood trauma. She had a father that was not present. And when he wasn't even worth having around. Her mother had to work like three jobs. It was rough. It was really rough. So, what happened with her? She was married twice, decided to go into trauma therapy to help other people. But ultimately, she hated men and didn't trust them because every relationship she was in was with a man who was not trustworthy. Just like who? Just like her father. So we had to change that dynamic and heal it, not just up here, but in a different and new and different way that would allow each one of these women and men to rise above and have an embodiment for what they want, for what they really want. And that's the truth. So if you have a glimmer of, why don't I have a good man or a good person in my life? Or why do I keep dating the same wrong person over and over again? Why does this keep happening? Now, it's very convenient to say, well, there's no one out there at my age, whether you're in your 50s, whether you're in your 60s, or if you're in your 40s. So you don't know it. You don't know what you're missing, really. And you don't want your life to get messed up by another person who's going to ruin it, right? Who can relate to that, right? That's the perspective. Diane, hi, Diane. So it takes something totally new and different to transcend. So the truth is that every single thing, right, about your choices in relationships, intimate relationships, I'm not talking about friendships, I'm not talking about work, although it could definitely spill over. Sometimes we get into careers or into jobs and we wonder, why are we doing it? Or why am I feeling neglected at work or taken advantage of? Same idea, same idea. So, what we learn again in childhood affects everything. And the good news is it can change. And our last case study grew up also with childhood trauma. And this time it wasn't from, alcoholism, and it wasn't from, it's never about a socioeconomic. It's not about, oh, we were poor or, oh, it has to do. with how you were treated. It had to do, and it could look great on the surface because a lot of my clients in a clear path to true healthy love, they had fancy schools and fancy vacations and everything, roof over the head, all that good stuff. What didn't they have? They didn't have safety, emotional safety. They didn't feel really understood. A lot of them were trained to be performers. Like they didn't get the attention they needed. So they learned to be high achievers. Success, succeed, busy, work, achieve. And we do that almost unconsciously to feel worthy and viable. And that's from childhood love school, right? Because that's what we learned because we weren't going to get our needs met. We weren't going to feel validated. We weren't going to get the hugs and the kisses. But when all the years go by and we look back at our childhoods, most people will say, "Oh, yeah, I had a really good childhood." Okay. But they date narcissists or emotionally unavailable people, right? Over and over again. Or they married someone and stayed married for 25 years and they finally got out, only to find that the next relationship was another relationship of abandonment, right? Who could relate to this, right? This is what happens. So we have to laugh at it and we have to realize that what we know up here is not freedom. As a matter of fact, the more we live in our heads and not in a heart centered embodiment. Now, again, I don't want you to be confused. You could do yoga every day and you can meditate every day. I know I did, still dating narcissists, but you could meditate and you can dream but the things we're doing alone to calm our nervous system, because I ask people, what have you done to solve your relationship dilemma that you are so amazing, but you don't have love in your life? And they're like, no, no, I do a lot of self care. Okay, great that you do self care. But how does that change the root cause of things that have been affecting you for decades? The unresolved things, the trauma that wasn't addressed. And trust me, when I was 20 years old dating a drug addict, I started energy healing and I was in a 12-step program and I was in therapy from 12 years old. And I was like really, really, really self-aware. Great in here. And I did those other things, but none of those things like gave me what I really needed to find a soulmate. And what I needed to find a soulmate was to really open up my heart, learn how to trust, understand what good love really is, and change that whole perspective that I had that had me unconsciously bringing in the wrong people over and over again. So there's real good news here. There's really good news that when we get future focused and we do the right things in the right order, meaning having a new perspective about the past, not just analyzing it, and understanding it from a space of reason and the courage to change, move out of codependency, move out of, I got this, I don't need anyone, or postponing. As soon as we say, um, I don't need anyone, uh, it's fine, or I can't afford to get the help I need, you have helped everyone else. Many of you have worked for a lifetime, a lifetime. I know I spent 100 grand in therapy from 12. I used to by myself, get on the Long Island Railroad and leave Brooklyn and go to therapy because no one's going to go with me. And when I think of the relationships I was in and the money I loaned them, the money got taken from me, all the things I did, it was like, woo, massive fortunes. And you guys too have been through it. So again, the good news is that it takes real courage to change. And it takes courage to be willing to just surrender. That's my invitation to you. I'm inviting you to come to my workshop on Sunday. Just like surrender and leave your skepticism behind and know that that yes, it doesn't matter if you're in your early 70s. It doesn't matter if you're in your 60s, doesn't matter in your and even if you're in your early 70s and you look like 40, everyone tells me the same thing, right? Because I'm sure you do. But everyone, pretty much everyone says that. Here's the rub. It's not uh right, only I meet men who only talk about sex, right? Right. So it's telling you and the mosquitoes that something different needs to happen. And that's where I invite you to have a beginner's mindset because it's a real problem. And it goes on and on and on for decades. Time does not heal this particular problem. What does heal it again is a beginner's mindset, is a new perspective, is starting to be willing to trust, but not to trust just anyone you meet. Learn how to clear the inner space within yourself from a beginner's mindset without all the coping mechanisms and the delusional optimism that a lot of us had. I know I had it. And just come with an open mind and a blank slate and realize that you can be in a different paradigm. You can become a creator. If we meet men that only want to have sex with us, it's because there is an emotional disconnect. Okay? That's what it means. And what do we need most? We want to be seen. We want to be deeply loved, right? So we see that. I use it as a diagnostic tool about what the real problem is. And then we can dig in there and really make the changes in a very short time because we can see it's not about time, it's about effectiveness. And we can unwind childhood trauma. We can unwind all of that trauma, again, not from here, but from a place of embodiment. And it really does. The people that really do this, and you're going to meet the ones that meet, get sweet love. You're going to meet Elena. You're going to meet Sue. You're going to meet so many of the people that have it. And we're going to talk about it and where they come from and really relate it to you. And we're going to unwind for you. And the thing is, they all have the courage to say, I'm not willing to live without good love anymore. I'm not going to keep doing the same things I've always done and get, the same results I've always gotten. So they were open and being open and generous with themselves. I know that, resources, there's always limited resources, but it's really all about uh, investing in yourself in things that are going to be effective. So I invite you to join me on Sunday, the 19th, and we're going to do exercises and we're going to learn and we're going to grow. And I'm fully intent on giving you guys a lot of value because you deserve to have the best. And I had a lot of challenges in my childhood with my mother and a lot of shame, and my father being bipolar and rage and very low self-worth. And what I can tell you is that getting to wholeness and embodiment and finding someone that makes your life massively multitudes better than it is today is a learnable skill. So I'm going to give you exercises and things to do in the workshop. Again, if you haven't registered yet, I'm going to drop the link. It's meettomarry.com/soulmate. If you can't come every day live, that's totally fine. We're going to send replays every day. If you have friends that are still in the dark about love, about what's possible, and they're ready to stop complaining about dating sites, about men, about the apps, about being too old, about men only want sex, and they're ready to come and inquire, then I invite you to invite them to come too. Because the transformation that we offer and that we provide is really for people who are ready for it. You have to be ready because receiving feels scary. And that's why most people are skeptical and they put it off. No, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to put that first. I'm going to put the other thing. I'm going to buy the house first. I'm going to do. But when you think about your core needs as a human, we need mostly, we need food and shelter, right? Of course. But we need love. We need to feel validated and loved and sweet love, good love. If you're coming into my world, it's only about that. I'm not here to help you get more dates. I'm not here to help you like manipulate more dates or be more goddess like or flirt. That's definitely not what this is about. This is about true healing from the root, from the core. And there's nothing better. So I'm going to drop the links. And if you, we're also offering 15-minute concierge calls with me and my team and my husband. He's doing them too to customize this experience for you. Okay. So we're going to drop links and I'm going to go inside and cool off. And it was so nice spending time with you. Diane said, I'm afraid to let my guard down because trust issues tell what I can do to make it better. Yeah, it's going to be on Zoom. If when you register, Diane, you're going to get a confirmation, and there are 3 buttons. One says add to your calendar. One says join the Facebook group, which you guys obviously are all here already. And you're going to get a workbook. You'll download the workbook. And you know what? Letting down your guard, just learning how to trust. My mantra is be the one to find the one. So, where does that put the responsibility? Outside? The men? The world? The state of the union? No. It's all about us. It's all about us. And I am so passionate about it because I suffered for so long. And when it comes to choosing a mentor, you want someone that understands, that walk the walk, that knows what it is to experience real shame and trauma. There are a lot of mentors out there, and some of them, some people come to me after they've done other programs because, you need someone that I know I needed to be shaken up and to open my eyes beyond my delusion and my fears and my box and my limits. Now I'm married 20 years to my soulmate, and we're still ever growing. And we stay in touch with all our clients. And I could talk about this forever, but join, come to the workshop. Any questions you have, I'm here. My team is here. We're answering questions about everything. And I will see you on Sunday at 12 noon. Sending love to you all. Thank you so much for your time.